NBA DFS show with Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook Show. We are here for the 9-game Monday slate. And James, today has been a day. You were on the playbook. Injury news coming through fast and heavy. How you feeling about everything leading into the 7 p.m. hour here, sir?
I mean, it's never great to get a lot like this much news. But it's better to get it early, which we have gotten. Just rattling off some names that have already been ruled out today, starting with Victor Wembanyama after weird shoot-around reporting. Initially, Cade Cunningham was ruled out. Derek White was just ruled out right before we went live. Anthony Simons was ruled out. Jalen Duren ruled out. Simone Fontecchio out. Alec Burks, as we went live, ruled out. So those are just some of the names ruled out. Jordan Poole in. Jordan Clarkson in. Larry Markkinen in. So we also got downgrades. More Denver news, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter. So 4 of their 5 starters are now listed questionable. Alex Caruso downgraded. I mean, there's just Russell Westbrook. That's a late slate. But, I mean, there's just a litany of news that we have already had yesterday, have gotten today. But, again, like, it's good to get that stuff early so we're not scrambling, right?
Agreed.
I have a large and almost as long lineup core play section post news, like a news section in my playbook, fully updated for all those looking for the best plays and pivots off of guys that have already been ruled out. So go to fantasyalarm.com and check that out. If you're, don't just look at the core plays, don't just look at the player pool. There's an entire section of guys that I've written up based on the news. So
that link is in the chat, so you can check. The link is in the chat.
Yeah, I mean it's a very interesting slate. Like, it's not surprising. I think we're gonna get this throughout the rest of the year, just given what it is. Like, it's officially like full tank or play for better seating spot. Like, you are either playing your guys 40 minutes or anything's on the table with all the crappy teams. So
agreed.
It's we just gotta comb through all the yuckiness and find the best plays, and that's what I did today on today's playbook.
Looking at the matchup, Charlotte, Cleveland giving 11.5 at home, 206 total. Boston, Atlanta getting 10.5, 224.5 total. Detroit, New York, the Knicks giving 17 to 11.5 total there. Nets, Raptors at home getting 6.5, 219.5. Wizards, Bulls giving 12.5, 226.5 total there. Portland, Houston giving 13.5, 223.5 total. Phoenix, San Antonio getting 12, 234. Memphis, Denver giving 14.5, 214 total. Dallas, Utah rounding it out. Utah getting 7, 238.5 total there in that one. Does the Spurs spread seem weird at all? Like, Wemby gets ruled out and they go from a 12.5 to a 12-point dog. Like, they're just.
I get what you're saying. Here are the games that Victor Wembanyama, here's the last 5 games that they've played without him. Okay.
Sure.
13-point win against Golden State, 2-point loss against Sacramento, both those games on the road, 4-point loss to Charlotte on the road, 6-point loss to Chicago, 6-point loss to Portland. Last 5 games, they've been competitive in all non-Wemby games. I'm not saying that's going to be something here, but also Phoenix is what they are, right? Like, they should be better than they are. They can't put teams away in fourth quarters, and they've already lost outright twice to now Wemby was in two of them, but I'm not all that surprised now.
Yeah, I think it's, the perception is big player gets ruled out, spread moves, and it just didn't really move there. Let's jump into it again, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. If you haven't already tossed a like on today's show, do so as well. It's a free way to support what we do here over at Fantasy Alarm. Obviously, we come here almost every single day, live 5 p.m. Eastern time. This is a little bit of a weirder schedule this week. There's a couple days that is very light. We won't be doing a live stream on the 2-game Thursday slate. I think we have a 3-gamer tomorrow.
It's we'll do a quick 4-game.
Yeah, we'll do a quick little show tomorrow. But rest of the week here, 5 p.m. Eastern, we're running down everything for you all. So subscribe, like, support. We're here for you guys throughout the rest of the NBA season. Luka is up top. He is $12,800. You mentioned obviously a lot of guys rolled in and downgraded. So we know value will probably be aplenty today. Do you find yourself spending up for Sir Luka Doncic here?
Yeah, it's as good as a spot as it's going to get. So you get to Luka, by all means, pay for Luka, and there's plenty, like you said, there's plenty of value to make that comfortable.
Yep. When looking at today's ownership, Luka getting only 18%. If in terms of top spend ups, he is the top spend up play of the day. Are you surprised that number is not a little bit higher given sort of the value that is on the board here today, that more people wouldn't just be plugging Luka in?
It was double that first run of ownership.
Okay.
That's what I find interesting. I think a lot of this news has sparked a lot of fair and balanced builds more than it is the value, because those value plays, like James Wiseman is 5,700, right? That's not like, that's a value, but not what it was. He's not 4,500. And Jaden Ivey's 6K, right? Just looking at Detroit.
Sure.
The Spurs, everyone on Vassell's 73, everyone else is $55,000 or more. Like, not that 5,000 for Zach Collins is expensive, but like it's not 4,200, right? So like, there is not, like, Portland, maybe that's your one avenue of like actual value, but like Scoot 61, Delano Banton 59,
right?
Like it's so. I think things may change if and when all those Denver guys are rolled out, because I mean,
Christian Braun,
Jordan,
yeah,
like that's when we're talking about like easier ways to fit Luka into your lineup. Because
Watson,
now,
right, probably too. Right?
Yeah, I mean everyone at that, because the 4 or 5 starters potentially rolled out. So like, that's when I think you would see ownership spike on Luka. I just think that it's more fair and balanced right now. Like the ownership at point guard, kind of surprisingly going to Jalen Brunson. Not that I think it's a bad spot. I mean, it's, a great spot, but it's also like, well, in terms of like equal to Luka, I get it. There's a depressed price, and I get it's Detroit, but like
17-point spread. And you've pointed out when they've gotten into blowouts, he's been the one that actually does get a little bit of the rest.
Yeah, and the Knicks are the best defensive team in basketball recently, and they're the slowest pace by like an incredibly wide margin. So like, I like guys from Detroit. I'm also just not confident in like Brunson playing full allotment of minutes and making a big difference to like, I would just find the extra money to get to Luka, because he has 70, 80, 90, 100 fantasy point upside. So
yeah, like
I like everyone in the 9K range. I like DeJounte, great spot. No Derek White, no Drew Holiday. Like, I'm not sure what Jaylen Brown is presumably your on-ball defender here for Murray. Like, we've seen Brown defend elite
Xavier
players.
Tillman just rolled out for Boston.
Yeah, Xavier Tillman's out. Yeah, I assume they go double big, and they just do like their Pritchard, the Jays, double big, right? And then Hauser, your 6-man. But I just DeJounte, good spot. Brunson, fine. But like, all roads still for me, especially, again, we talk about this all the time. Anytime you sees Luka's ownership going down, that's when you pounce, because like, again, I'm not saying anyone else doesn't have the upside he has. Like, I'm not saying Jason Tatum can't score 50 against Atlanta tonight, but also Luka does it at a higher clip and a higher rate than
look at this
run.
70, no less than 70 fantasy points in this 6-game stretch. Now, obviously, lately stepped it down a little bit, 65, 60, 60, right? 60 fantasy points.
Right.
Obviously, at 12-8, you do need a little bit more than 60.
You need the 70.
Right.
You need the 70.
But like you mentioned, as his rostership goes down, the leverage for guy with 100 fantasy point ceiling goes up as one of the few guys on this slate that can even do it. So fully in agreement with you. When we go down to the mid-tier, again, we talked about this on the show this morning. There was a lot of questionables and a lot of outs. Didn't get any better since then. At least we got maybe some more definition on who's going to be in or out here. Where are you when it comes to the mid-tier point guard position?
I mean, Houston is obviously incredibly interesting. Very short rotation with guys out, and even more with Jabari out. So like Jalen Green coming off and out of his mind game. 2 of his last 3 really. 4 of his last 5 really over 50 for Jalen Green. So like that would be where I'd start. Van Vliet hit 7 threes or 10 threes the other day. 56. We know he's had a pretty good ceiling since Şengün's been out. So I would say the Houston guys, they're locked into big minutes. If they win tonight, they're half a game behind Golden State for the final spot. And Golden State's not playing their guys, as been a popular talking point with the Steph Curry not playing X amount of minutes and Steve Kerr's response to that. So Houston could get within a half a game of the play-in with a 9th straight win tonight. Portland already ruling guys out. We're going to see mid to high 30s minutes of Jalen and Van Vliet. So like that's something that when we talk about in the later stretch of this year, that is something that you can just put in your back pocket, right? You need in your back pocket. Like, okay, which teams do I know are playing big minutes? Houston. That is. Yeah. I'm definitely in on the Houston guys. I'm not convinced Jalen or Jamal Murray plays. I'm not convinced anyone on Denver plays, but we'll see. It's a late night hammer. Could have some leverage if you're, pivoting from pivoting there. Kobe White's scheduled to play. He's fine going back in the starting lineup. No injury news for Mobley, not on the injury report. So I think we can largely avoid Cleveland. They're all tournament plays. They look bad, but pretty good spot. The Vassell thing is really interesting to me. San Antonio is really interesting to me because, again, they've been super competitive in these non-Wemby games. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not saying, like, it could go a lot of different ways. But Vassell has popped off in essentially every non-Wemby game. He has really good numbers without Victor Wembanyama this year. So I'm interested in Vassell, around 25% usage rate over a fantasy point per minute. So 7,300 for Vassell is really good. Amen Thompson, if you want to get to him, is going to play a lot. Jordan Poole's going to chuck as many shots as he possibly can. I'm a little interested in Jaden Ivey if that game can stay competitive. We haven't seen him play 30 minutes in many games because there hasn't been a need for competitive games, but he's been good. I think Scoot Henderson is one of the better mid-tier plays of the day. He was in foul trouble in that Denver game. Only had 28 minutes. 35 in the 2 games prior, and the first Clippers game was an absolute shellacking, and he still played 35 minutes. So there's no reason to think they just don't play him 35 plus nightly. And look at the fantasy points the last few games: 32, 49, 39. DeAndre Ayton questionable. Another guy I'm assuming doesn't play. They started 5 rookies the other day. Probably do it again today.
Yeah.
I would have a ton of interest in Scoot, regardless of Ayton's status. But like, if Ayton's out, I mean, Scoot's on like triple double watch. I think we saw one earlier this year. We got close in that 60 burger that he dropped. 7 rebounds, 9 assists. Like, he's on big scorer watch. Houston 4th fastest team, and that's held true since the All-Star break, and it hasn't slowed down with the Şengün injury at all. So I love Scoot tonight.
Yeah, no, for sure. Good price tag for him. Obviously, under him, you have Delano Banton, as we talked about him enough. But Pritchard here at 56, going to start playing a lot of minutes. It's difficult to envision him having the same ceiling that Henderson going to have, obviously, because Tatum and Brown are active. Yes. But I mean, he's been as good as they needed him to be since moving him into the starting lineup.
Yeah, I think he's a great cash game play and a really good single entry tournament play as well. I mean, there's no reason to think he's not playing 30 plus minutes and continuing to just. No one really across the NBA has benefited more than injuries like lately than Peyton Pritchard, right? Because like he was like he's been in the rotation,
7th-ish man, right? Like,
well, Horford's been this like, but like
sure,
even during this stretch, like he's played 30 plus minutes in 5 straight games and is still only at 21 minutes a year.
He's directly benefited from Drew Holiday being out 100%.
Yeah,
right?
I'm just saying but like it's everyone like it's Holiday, but then Boston's just had like this guy out and this guy out, and then this guy comes back, but this guy's out, and like it's just been like, oh, but Peyton Pritchard's the guy that every single time it's like 30, 30,
Right.
30.
And funny enough, he's largely been like the fourth option still, no matter who the rotations have been, right? Like there's always been at least one J active. You've had Porzingis active. You've always had Derek White active for the most part. So like, but he's still finding his shots, more importantly, hitting his shots. And, when you're the Celtics and you spread teams thin the way they do, no one's covering Peyton Pritchard, right? They're covering everybody else and he's knocking them down and making them pay. So, again, he's not 5K anymore. He is $5,600. McBride, Jackson, Sasser, all below him, and all probably deserve some consideration here tonight for sure.
Yeah, it's pick your poison. McBride's, we know, probably has the highest minute ceiling of all of them. Because he
doesn't come off the floor.
He actually didn't come off the floor last game, so
he breaks during the TV timeout.
True. Apparently Thibodeau he made a joke that he had his rest earlier in the year when he wasn't playing. So that was he made that joke. So shout out Tibbs for that.
He's got 12 DNPs. He's
yeah. So I mean, definitely get to McBride. We know Reggie Jackson's as good as a tournament play as it's gonna get. If it's Reggie Jackson, I mean, dude, he did the thing against Clippers earlier in the year where he just went nuke. He nuked a Slate, and
he played 40 minutes in that game, by the way. So you want to talk about a guy who may not come off the floor.
I mean, there's legitimate chance Nuggets it's KCP and then 4 guys from their bench, right? Because KCP is the only starter on the injury report. And who's to say KCP isn't added at some point, right? 9:00 game, like that's live to happen.
And Jackson has a history of being a bucket, so he could be a guy that steps out there and knocks.
He's a good player. He's a good player. Look, it's gonna be, and then like Sasser's cheap. It's gonna be like how you feel about potentially waiting until later because Denver is the last game on the slate, right? They're 9:00. Now you could pivot to like either Dallas, Utah, Memphis, but like your Dallas pivots are not good.
Imagine this being a no late swap slate.
Yeah. Oh, forget it. I mean,
what would you do?
Forget it. Utah became a lot less pivotable because everyone's in for Utah for the first time in a while. Memphis, like, do you really want to pivot to Memphis? Like, we don't know who's playing for Memphis either. So Denver makes for a very interesting option tonight because I personally think none of them play. We had the injury report yesterday with Jokic and Murray, right? And then midday downgrades to Gordon and Porter. That's not like improving our potential. Now, what if Porter, Gordon are out and like Jokic, Murray play? Then
I could see that being a scenario.
Or one of them of the 4 play, right?
I don't know if one of the 4 would play. I think they're like, either all out or like 2 or
half.
Yeah.
All I know is if it's half, I hope Michael Porter is not one of them in.
I think it'd be the forwards out and Jokic and Murray play since they sat last time.
Okay.
Or they're all out. I think that's the way it would go.
Okay. I personally think, and I wrote it in the playbook, I think they're all out. That would be my estimation. They won the other day with half of them. Now they want to push it and see if they can win without any of them against Memphis. So that would be my guess, which means obviously, all systems go on potentially Reggie Jackson and company.
Yeah, agreed. Getting through the point guard position, we took about 20 minutes. Now let's go to shooting guard. A lot of players to talk about here for 9 games. We talked Jalen Green. I don't know if you saw the Shams report earlier today that the Nets turned down Jalen Green in multiple firsts. Mikal Bridges.
I saw also Houston Twitter thanking Brooklyn for turning that trade down. I also saw that.
Whoops. Yeah. Where are you with Jalen Brown tonight? $8,700. Is he too expensive? I mean, the man's been going off since the All-Star break, but 87 is obviously a price tag that's kind of peaking for him here. So
it's a great spot, but I think like when it comes down to it, like he has better eligibility than Jalen Green, but like I'd probably just click Jalen Green's name first, knowing like I know Van Vliet. It could be Van Vliet's team, but like, dude, Jalen Green's winning player of the week this week, and like he's 240 burgers in his last 3. Like I would probably just go to the Jalen Green route.
Yeah, that's fine. Again, just kind of knowing the way Jalen Brown's played since the All-Star break, it's been a while, but up there in price now. Sexton 75. You mentioned Laurie and Clarkson are back tonight, so I don't know how you're feeling about Colin Sexton here. Cam Thomas is 73. Beal 72 in the mid tier. We talked Mikal. What are your thoughts in the 7 and 6K range?
I assume we get Sexton starting with Chris Dunn out, so you probably get like that same starting lineup that they had previous to like all these injuries. You get Markkanen back in the starting lineup, Sexton back in the starting lineup, Keontae George, John Collins. So Sexton's fine in tournaments. It's obviously a great spot. Dallas is bad defensively. Cam Thomas, they're shorthanded, dude. No Dennis Smith, no Cam Johnson. So Cam Thomas is going to continue to play a lot of minutes.
Yeah, and Toronto, as we know, very deficient defensively.
Yeah, very just whatever they are. Right. So definitely Thomas in tournaments. We talked about Vassell. He's very interesting. Jordan Poole in tournaments as well. Gary Trent, dude. I mean, what is stopping him from taking 26 shots again?
Cover of the morning show for a reason, right? Like, he took 26 shots against the Wizards. They have the same team. He's going to take all of the shots, right?
Minus Jamias Ramsey, who has his 10-day contract has ran out.
Right. So I agree with you. 2 31-point games in the last 4, 30-plus minutes. I mean, it is always funny to me that like these guys that float around and really don't do anything for like Trent's been fine, but he has been a very third, fourth option on this team for a lot of the year. Now they're down nobody, and this dude's looking like an all-star, right? It's funny kind of how these things sort of like pop out. Yeah, I'm just like, why not? Dude had 10 free throw attempts. He's still going to chuck from 3. He's filling out the stat sheet, giving you steals. Like, yeah, but he's almost as close to a core play for me as there is, I think.
Yes, he is definitely. I mean, again, there's no reason. I think the only difference in the starting lineup is Bruce Brown probably starts here for Ramsey because Ramsey started last game and now he's not on the team. So
yeah, we're just fine. He'll distribute. Right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I like. There's not like someone coming in to like suddenly be like, here, Gary, pass me the ball. That's as we know from Gary Trent's dad. Like Gary Trent deserves all the shots. I think Gary Trent's dad is Gary Trent, who.
Trying to see. Trent is 11% tonight as well, so even getting some good leverage there. Hauser 55 probably comes off the bench. We've talked McBride. Grady Dick at 53 has been good, right? I mean, minutes and shots have been there for him.
Yeah, he's been fine. I don't like the price, but I think it should be fine.
Sure. Talk Sasser already. KCP at 46. We'll see if he's actually active or not. Then Christian Braun again, sort of the same deal. Like we'd just float a Christian Braun here if they all get ruled out in time. So
yeah, I don't think it happens. I don't think we get the news, but I definitely think Christian Braun is highly intriguing.
Small forward. Tatum, DeRozan, Miles Bridges, Laurie at 8K is your top 5.
Yeah, I mean Tatum's obviously elite. It's like you can always get to like these Boston guys. I mean, their big 3 essentially is healthy. They're all playing. I should say their highest usage players, right? I shouldn't say their big 3 because that's
Zinger, Brown, and Tatum.
Disrespecting their best player, Derek White. So Tatum and Brown, you could definitely get to, huh?
So Peyton Pritchard. Yeah.
Also Peyton Pritchard, right? Tatum's now third.
Some night Sam Hauser.
Tatum is now third, potentially 4th on the depth chart of best players on the team.
Tatum's never hit 10 threes in the game. Sam Hauser did it in a half. I'm just saying.
And he almost did it again. He hit 7 the other night. Like it's off the bench. Definitely like DeRozan. We've talked about it though. Like, one of those things. Like it's letdown city here. Just when you think everything's going well for DeMar DeRozan. So if you want to click them. There's a ceiling. Bridges, really tough spot. No thanks. Market played 36 minutes last game. Like, it's a good matchup. He didn't make any shots.
Nope.
So if he makes shots, like, obviously there's merit to getting there. I do think Deni is a really intriguing play tonight. 50, 35, 47 fantasy points in his last 3 games. 9+ rebounds, 5 assists in 3 straight games. the scoring has been great for Deni Avdija. 6 straight games of 16 plus points. So it's a good spot against Chicago. Chicago bottom 3 in defense since the All-Star break. I like Deni at 72. I would have liked it more if Jordan Poole wasn't playing.
Sure.
But I still think you can get to Deni Avdija at 72.
Agreed. GG $6,300. Small 4 power forward eligibility for GG Jackson here. What's your next go-to? Like a Keldon? Sohan?
Yeah, it's the Spurs guys.
Yeah.
Sohan's numbers are fine without Wemby. 0.9 fantasy points per minute. Should play a bunch. We saw in the Sacramento game, 27 fantasy points, and then that Golden State game right after it, 29. Those were the 2 games without Wemby. Now the 29 fantasy point game, he was smashing. He was in foul trouble all night. So like he's fine. I like Keldon a little bit more. He's cheaper. We know he has a just higher scoring ceiling overall. That's been Keldon Johnson's whole career. He can score the basketball. I think Sohan does a little more peripherally than Keldon, but I prefer the savings going to Keldon. I'm good with getting to either, though. Grady, Dick, and Ochai Agbaji are basically in like the same bucket where they're both going to play 30 minutes. They've both been pretty productive of late, and you've always talked about it. Like when roles change, like so does production. And I think for both of them, I don't love them being over 5K, but I think there's a case for both.
Nobody's playing either of them. Agbaji's at 3%, and Grady Dick is at 1% tonight. So
I mean, I don't like I like Chris Murray more than both of them, $4,300. The minutes for Chris Murray have been just insane.
Sure.
Over the last couple games, 39, 36, and it's the same story, right? Same rotation. They don't have anybody active. He's been good on the glass. He's been good peripherally. He's taken 6 threes in 3 straight games, something that he struggled with this year. But if the volume, right, we just need the volume. Like, although he's not good from 3,
11% rostership tonight on Chris Murray as well. So
I've found myself getting to Chris Murray quite a bit. Just again, pace-ups, really good pace-up spot for Portland. They played these guys big minutes in basically any scenario the last few games. Jeremy Grant doubtful, DeAndre Ayton questionable. So no reason to think Chris Murray isn't, again, front and center with his minutes.
No arguments. No arguments for me here. I was trying to see power forward. Durant 93. We touched on Tatum already. Triple J at 83, which against what could be nobody on Denver, which, again, if you can kind of wait that out, that'd be a pretty nice matchup for him to take advantage of. Porzingis, we've talked about. We don't know where the minutes are going to be with him at 79. Mobley had been limited, $7,300. Tough to get him, knowing that there could be that limit there. Like, what are your thoughts at top end of power forward?
I mean, Durant's fine. Has definitely taken a back seat. I think he's letting Bradley Beal and Devin Booker figure it out. Especially Bradley Beal, because Bradley Beal's definitely turned it on lately. And I think Durant knows, like, conservation is needed going into the postseason. He's older. He's been through an Achilles tear. So if you land on Durant, it's fine. It's not my favorite. I think Jaren Jackson's quite interesting if Denver has nobody, right? Because if it's like DeAndre Jordan, and Peyton Watson's a really good defender, but if his primary defender at all in any capacity is DeAndre Jordan, like that's advantage Jaren Jackson. So I'd be interested there. Porzingis, my opinions haven't really changed on him much. I don't think he's going to play enough minutes to like really have that crazy ceiling. You can play him in tournaments if you want. I like Chris Murray, I like Chris Murray, coach, a little over Toumani Camara. I know Camara had a really big game last game. I think Murray's minutes have been a little more consistent. He's definitely stayed out of foul trouble a lot more than Toumani Camara, too, who is just cannot figure it out in that department, always in foul trouble. So I would go Chris Murray. He's $200 cheaper as well. No on Mobley with the likelihood that he's limited again. But I do think Kelly Olynyk is quite interesting at 71. 32 minutes, no Jonte Porter behind him in this game. interesting. I mean, he has a really good ceiling. You
Dude,
can
he's a great tournament play. Always can go off. He fills the stat sheet. You're not relying on him for like, all right, he needs a score or he doesn't. He just had 10 assists last game, right? Like he can do it all. He's a great big. I'm with you there. Aldam is cheaper, and has been as good, if not better, more consistently lately. Minutes been great for him. As we mentioned, could also just be in a matchup against who? We don't know, right? maybe not their top ends in Denver here. So GG, same situation. I don't really want to go much of the Atlanta side of that game. Kispert's 55. Then you have the Toronto guys we talked about.
I would play Horford at 62 as well. He's been good. He's been over a fantasy point per minute this year. Sans Holiday and
if they go
White.
double big, I would agree with you. Yeah,
that would be my assumption that they do. I mean, there's always the potential they go Hauser and then bring Horford off the bench. But if where my mind is that they start Horford, my expectation, then that's why I'm suggesting him. Dylan Brooks, 48, would be in play. Jabari Walker is going to play mid to high 20s minutes. He's fine, 4,600, especially if and when DeAndre Ayton's ruled out. The aforementioned Tamani Kamara, Dorian Finney-Smith should play mid 30s minutes. The current rostership leader is Chimezie Metu, and it's status quo for Detroit, right? And now I'm not going to say he's going to play 39 minutes because, again, they've switched up their starting lineup pretty much every day. And, like, different guys have gotten run pretty much every day. And you don't know from game to game, like, what bad teams are going to do. But there's no reason to think he wouldn't get somewhere close to 30-plus minutes. Like, I don't even need 39. If you were to tell me Chimezie Metu played 30 minutes tonight, I would have a lot of interest in him. So long as he's starting, I have a ton of interest in Metu. Yeah, I mean,
I agree. Yeah, I mean, obviously we'll figure out more if Denver news ever comes out. But center again, Jokic here. We'll find out. Vuk at 85. We talked about it. Great spot. I never find myself being able to get to him for his price. Jared Allen, $8,200. But if Mobley's active, maybe you take a step back on him in this spot against Charlotte. Not sure your total feelings there. Nurkic, we talked to Linux. Like, where are you going at the center spot tonight?
I'm basically just going to the value tier.
Value tier, I agree.
Yeah, there's a ton of like sub 6K plays. Gafford 59. I think there's an underrated part of Daniel Gafford if Maxi Kleber's ruled out, because then you get a straight split between him and Lively at center, where like Kleber cuts in a little bit. Then I think you can get like close to 30 minutes out of Daniel Gafford. And if you were to get close to 30 Daniel Gafford minutes on a Luka-led team, we're talking about a guy who could go for 50 fantasy points. So I like Gafford quite a bit. I'm not scared away by the Knicks' bad defense with James Wiseman. He's just an elite fantasy producer. We just need James Wiseman to stay out of foul trouble at $5,700. Hartenstein has a ceiling in this matchup. Landale, we could potentially see start. Might be Jeff Green, might be Landale. If Jock starts, I think that's quite interesting. We just saw when he's extended 43 fantasy points in 27 minutes. So Jock would be interesting. Zach Collins is obviously going to get some ownership. Anytime Wemby's out, Zach Collins starts. We saw him start the Sacramento game, 30 minutes, 37 fantasy points. He did not have the same success in the Golden State game, but he was just in foul trouble from the word go. That's always alive with Zach Collins. He is a very handsy dude. He fouled out in 15 minutes the other day. So I think Collins is interesting. Duop Reith in tournaments is a guy that, or Duop Reith in general, if DeAndre Ayton's ruled out. Now, they're seemingly only going to play him high 20s minutes. It doesn't seem like they're going to split, which was kind of my concern. They're going to give the other guys some run. So you can play Duop if there's no Ayton. I'm just not expecting like mid 30s minutes like some of these other guys. Lively, if there's no Maxi Kleber, is okay. Mentioned Jabari Walker. If Jokic is out, obviously you can look and Gordon. You can look at DeAndre Jordan. Bruno Fernando, I've kind of cooled off on. I think we just got a question from Nico. You think Fernando starts? I don't. I think that the Atlanta starting lineup is pretty much what it is. It's going to be Murray, Krejci, Hunter, Bogdanovich, and Capella. I don't think they would change that for Al Horford, because Horford's going to stand by the offensively. He's going to stand on the perimeter anyway, so it's not like they need another big. So I'm fine with Fernando. I don't think it's as smash of a play as it was against Charlotte the other day.
And the ownership's obviously not as on him as they were the other day as well. So
yeah, and then Slate had tipped to Dominic Barlow. If you think in any scenario like Collins is in foul trouble, he's probably extended. I mean, in that game against Golden State, he played 30 minutes. He had 39 fantasy points.
Yeah.
So there's, the scenario that Collins gets in foul trouble is there, and Barlow is active because he's forever on the two-way deal, forever not active when they have both centers there. But tonight, no Wemby, means Dominic Barlow backup center. He should see all the backup minutes.
Agreed. Let's get to a lineup build here, James. Where are you kicking things off tonight? Chimezie Metu?
Yeah, probably like Metu, Murray, just like as like two value plays that I'm interested in.
All right, 6,900. What's your top spend? Are we getting to Luka? Are we going fair and balance?
Play fast PP.
Okay.
And then Luka, you could play util or guard because he's in the late window.
All right, we got 5,800.
James Wiseman, 57. I kind of like Wiseman better than Collins. Okay. I'm fine if like you need the savings to go to Collins.
Sure.
Zach Collins is getting more ownership. That's the interesting part and why I like Wiseman. Collins 18% right now. James Wiseman 5%, and that's after getting Detroit news. So
plugged in McBride because he's gonna play 48.
Yep.
Shooting guard. We got 6K for a guard and a forward or a forward util.
6K guard, forward util.
Depending where we just placed Luka, right? So
Gary Trent, 62.
All right, Trent fills the guard. We got a $5,800 forward. $5,800 forward. Keldon, 54.
Keldon, yeah.
There it is. Example lineup for the people out there. Peyton Pritchard, McBride, Murray, Metu, Wiseman, Trent, Keldon Johnson. Finishing out with a surprisingly low rostered Luka Doncic, under 20% here today, supposedly, as of the current projections that we have out on site. So that will obviously be updated as it comes through. Grande's got your playbook live on site. He'll be in the Discord getting you all ready up until 7 p.m. here this evening. We'll be back tomorrow. Obviously, be on the lookout for the pre-show, and we will catch you all next time. Good luck, everybody.